Hello, my name is Emphrey, and this is an AppGameKit game development tutorial. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to show you an easy way to make it so that your character can shoot bullets. And I'm going to show you how to do that without so much code. And throughout this tutorial, you might notice some of these green words up the top of like certain variables or functions and stuff. Those are comments. So I wrote comments throughout this code here. You can feel free to stop the video to read them. And after this tutorial is over, I'm going to show you a version of this code without the comments. I'm just trying to keep this tutorial simple. Okay, so the first thing that I made was the window size. This is the usual stuff that you would put when you're trying to make a game in AppGameKit. The window size is going to be 500 by 500, and same thing with the 500 by 500 virtual resolution. You can put whatever numbers you want, but that's what I put. And then I defined my bullet type or class, whichever word you want to use. It means the same thing. So I defined my bullet class. I gave it a variable called active, and then I made variable for the X direction. X has to do with when the bullet goes right or left. Y has to do with whether the bullet goes up and down. Our bullet's not going to go up or down, but I put it here so it can line up with the player. So this is my bullet type. And then I created an ID for the player. I gave the player an ID of 1. And then I created an image for the player too. Here I'm loading my image and giving my image an ID of 1 as well. In AppGameKit, I always like to use add sprite animation image or treat my images like an animation, because usually I always like to attach animations to my images. So I just do that right off the bat when I load images in AppGameKit. And the image that I use for my player is this image right here. So we gave both things an ID of 1. So then next thing I did was I created some coordinates for my image. These coordinates have to do with where my image is going to start on screen once we launch our game. You remember these two ones right here? I just put these ones right here because these ones have to do with my player. So our player is going to start at 100 on the x-axis and 100 on the y-axis. And here, set sprite position is where I finalize where my player is going to be at once we launch our game. Next part has to do with our player's bullet. I gave the bullet an ID of 2. And this is the bullet image that we're using. So we take this bullet.png and we stick it right here. Here, I'm defining the amount of bullets that are going to be on screen. So you'll only be able to shoot 3 bullets. Here I'm also giving my bullets a variable called all bullets. See, remember we named this class bullet, but now we have to have a variable so that we can address it in our code. So here we got a for loop for our bullets, and on our for loop, here we're giving our bullets an ID. Whenever you see the number 2, especially in the left corner, it has to do with our bullets. So here we gave the bullet an ID of 2, and we're taking this image right here, which we also gave it 2, and putting it right here. So usually 2 is going to have something to do with our bullet. And set sprite visibility, that just means that once we launch our game, you won't be able to see the bullet until it's fired. And this B that we're attaching to this, it has to do with all our bullets. So all our bullets are going to have an ID of 2, and all our bullets will not be visible until it is fired. Okay, so now we are in our do loop. Do loop. And this do loop, this is what makes it possible for things to move around on screen. Okay, so in order to fire our bullet, we have to press the S key. And before the bullet is even fired, we create a variable down here called shooting, and this means no shooting or 0 shooting. So we're not shooting yet. But once we press the S key, and there's no shooting, then this shooting becomes a 1, which means there is shooting now. And before we press the S key, that bullet hasn't been active. Usually in computer programming languages, whenever you create a variable and don't set it to anything, usually it's set to 0 by default. So again, this says once the S key is pressed, and when our bullet is not active, then that's when the bullet will become active and set to 1. And the bullet will be fired from our player's coordinates. Remember, Henry X and Henry Y has to do with our player's coordinates. And then that bullet, you remember which we gave an ID of 2, will become visible, because in AppGameKit 1 means visible. I should write that. And this goes for all the bullets, because that's what for loops mean. For loops has to do with all the bullets. Okay, so that's that part. And then this says for all the bullets that are active, because up here we established that the bullets are now active since the S key is pressed. So now that the bullets are active, all bullets dot bullet X equals all bullets dot bullet X plus 3. All the bullets are going to be going to the right, because X and plus means going to the right in computer programming at 3 pixels per second. And if any of the bullets reach 512 pixels out, then that's when those bullets become inactive and they set back to 0. And when they become inactive, that means they won't be flying around on screen anymore, and at a certain point you won't see them anymore. Always close all your if statements with endif, and always close your for loops with the word next and the B. You do that here, and you always do that up here too. And then this part, okay, here's our third for loop. This is another for loop. This is our third for loop. Here we're just finalizing our bullet's coordinates. You remember the bullet that we gave an ID of 2. Remember? 2. We gave an ID of 2 here. So we're just finalizing our bullet's position and where it's going to be at on the screen once it fires and stuff. And then close your do loop. Remember? Do loop. Okay, so let's go ahead and fire up our game and see what happens. Okay, so that's our player. And whenever I press the S button, you see the bullets. See, we can only shoot 3 bullets at a time. See, I can keep pressing the S button, but it won't let me fire more than 3 bullets at a time. All the bullets are really just going off screen and just sitting here until all 3 bullets that you have has been fired. And once all 3 bullets in the for loop has been fired, they disappear and then come back to Henry, and so that Henry can fire them again. See, let me show you. Let's widen our screen a little bit. Let's turn this to like 1,000 or something. Change these to 1,000. Now you're gonna see what happens to the bullet when we fire our screen. Okay, so this is what really happens to the bullet once it goes off screen. See, it just, once it gets to the 512th coordinate, it just stays there until we fired all 3 of our bullets. But then once our bullets are gone, it disappears. So that's what really happens. But you don't want this big screen like this. You want all of your bullets to fire off screen. So let's just change it back. So that's what happens when the bullets go off screen. And finally, this is what our code looks like without all the comments. As you can see, it's not that much code at all. Okay, so that's a simple way to create bullets in AppGameKit without so much code too. So take what you learned in this tutorial and expand on it, and hope you learned something. Thanks. Bye.